Tonight facing serious charges after colliding head-on with a motorbike in the Hawkesbury. In a dramatic twist, the rider she ploughed into is Jock Ross, the man behind the Milperra Massacre.
A Scottish immigrant watches a John Wayne film in 1968 and decides to name his new motorcycle club after it. 5 decades later, that same club controls drug trafficking routes spanning 4 continents, 7 people dead at a Father's Day barbecue. Cocaine shipments worth $760 million. An FBI-designed app that criminals trusted with their darkest secrets. The Comancheros didn't just build a motorcycle club, they built a transnational criminal empire that forced global law enforcement to change the game connection loop. How does a local Sydney bike gang transform into an international crime syndicate operating from Turkey to New Zealand? The answer involves bloodshed, betrayal, and one of the most sophisticated police operations in history. In 1968, William George Ross, known as Jock, emigrated from Glasgow, Scotland to Sydney, Australia. Ross was a former British Army engineer who served 7 years clearing minefields in Libya and laying new ones in Yemen. He grew up in the Gorbals, one of Glasgow's toughest neighborhoods, where survival meant never backing down. After watching the 1961 John Wayne film, The Comancheros, Ross founded his motorcycle club in Sydney and gave himself the grandiose title of Supreme Commander. Unlike other bike clubs, Ross ran the Comancheros like a military operation. He required members to participate in weekly paramilitary drills and created an elite unit called the Strike Force 1, former Comanchero told media. "If I wanted to march around in the backyard, I would have joined the army." The club's early years were marked by territorial violence. In May 1973, Ross orchestrated an elaborate ambush against a rival gang called the Knights. He sent an emissary to invite them to a keg party in the bush. When the Knights arrived, the entire Comanchero membership was waiting. During the fight, Ross was run over by a motorcycle, breaking his leg and leaving him with a permanent limp. By 1982, internal tensions reached a breaking point. Anthony Mark Spencer, known as Snotty, challenged Ross's authority and formed a second Comanchero. Chapter Spencer traveled to the United States, where he met members of the Texas-based Bandidos Motorcycle Club. The two gangs formed an alliance, and Spencer's chapter patched over to become the Bandidos' first Australian chapter. The Comancheros and Bandidos were now enemies. September 2nd, 1984, Father's Day. The Viking Tavern in Milperra, a Sydney suburb, hosted a motorcycle swap meet both the Comancheros and Bandidos attended. What started as a confrontation erupted into a gunfight in the parking lot. When the shooting stopped, 7 people lay dead. 4 Comancheros, 2 Bandidos, and a 14-year-old innocent bystander. 28 others were wounded. Ross received a life sentence but served only 5 years and 3 months. The Milperra Massacre marked a turning point. In January 1994, 6 major Australian motorcycle gangs attended a summit in Sydney. They created the Australia 2000 Pact, which aimed to control all criminal activities in Australia by the year 2000. Between 1994 and 2000, 35 people were murdered as larger gangs eliminated smaller ones. The Comancheros, excluded from this pact, refused to disband. Starting in the late 1990s, they recruited massive numbers of young men with Middle Eastern backgrounds to bolster their ranks. In 2002, Ross was deposed as Supreme Commander by Mahmoud Mick Hawi, a Lebanese immigrant who took control of the club. On March 22, 2009, members of the Comancheros and Hells Angels clashed at Sydney Airport's Terminal 3. The brawl involved 10 people and was witnessed by over 50 travelers and CCTV cameras. Anthony Zervas, brother of a Hells Angel, was beaten to death. Hawi was convicted of murder in November 2011. With Hawi imprisoned, Mark Buttle took over leadership in 2011. Buttle grew up in a Maroubra Housing Commission estate. In 2016, after becoming a person of interest in the shooting death of security guard Gary Alabon, Buttle fled Australia for Dubai with his partner and their 2 children. From Dubai, he attempted to run the Comancheros remotely, appointing a committee of leaders to manage operations. In September 2017, Buttle sent a text message to all Comancheros, declaring, "I'm the Supreme Commander of the world. No one is to touch another member or set up another chapter without my permission. He was operating a billion-dollar criminal enterprise from exile, orchestrating cocaine shipments from Hong Kong into Australia using encrypted communications. But Buttle made a fatal mistake. He relied on an encrypted messaging app called ANOM. What he didn't know was that ANOM was controlled by the FBI and Australian Federal Police. The app had been developed by a criminal informant working with law enforcement. By design, every message sent through ANOM was secretly copied to FBI servers. For 3 years, from 2018 to 2021, police monitored 27 million messages from over 9,000 devices across more than 100 countries. June 8, 2021, Operation Ironside went public simultaneous raids across 16 countries, resulted in over 800 arrests. In Australia alone, 4,000 police executed search warrants, seizing $45 million in cash and 4 tons of drugs. The Comancheros were devastated. 76 alleged Comanchero members were arrested, 3/4 of all Bikie gang arrests from the operation. The intercepted communications revealed 21 murder plots and massive drug trafficking operations. The club had expanded far beyond Australia. By 2018, chapters operated in New Zealand, driven by Australian government deportations of convicted criminals. In 2004, a chapter opened in Bosnia and Herzegovina. By 2023, Turkish police detained 37 full-patch Comanchero members in Istanbul. Spanish authorities arrested members running drug routes from Spain to France and Germany. Seizing 150 kilograms of marijuana, Australian Federal Police revealed that many drugs sold by the Comancheros originated from Vancouver's port, controlled by the Hells Angels. Despite violent clashes between these rival gangs in Australia, they cooperated internationally. Superintendent Jared Taggart explained, "It's that ever-evolving business model of transnational serious and organized crime and their willingness to cooperate together, even when they say they're enemies." Between 2019 and 2021, law enforcement agencies seized 3,812 kilograms of drugs from Comanchero networks operating through South Korea and South Africa. Drugs from South America were funneled through multiple countries before reaching Australia, where wholesale cocaine prices could reach $250,000 per kilogram, compared to just $70,000 in the United States. Buttle's exile ended in July 2022, when he was arrested at the Cyprus border. He was eventually deported from Turkey to Australia in August 2022, where he faced charges of importing more than 160 kilograms of cocaine into Melbourne. Another key figure, Hakan Ayik, known as the Facebook gangster, had unwittingly promoted ANOM to criminal networks. Turkish police arrested him and 36 others in Istanbul in November 2023. In December 2024, Australian authorities arrested 13 people, including the vice president of the Comancheros' Brisbane chapter, attempting to import 2.34 tons of cocaine by sea. This represented the largest cocaine seizure in Australian history, with an estimated street value of $760 million, enough for 11.7 million individual drug deals. From Jock Ross's military-style leadership in 1968 to global drug trafficking operations worth billions today, the Comanchero Motorcycle Club transformed from a local Sydney gang into a sophisticated transnational criminal organization. The Milperra Massacre put them in headlines. Exclusion from the Australia 2000 Pact forced them to evolve. Strategic recruitment expanded their power base. International expansion created new revenue streams. But their greatest strength, encrypted communications and global networks, became their downfall when law enforcement turned their own technology against them. Operation Ironside didn't just arrest hundreds of members. It exposed the entire blueprint of how modern organized crime operates across borders, proving that even the most sophisticated criminal empires have fatal vulnerabilities when investigators are patient enough to exploit them.